Or two?
1, 2, 3. My name's Nate.
My name's Preston.
And we're reviewing
Bad Times at the
Royale.
Royale.
That was pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty good.
I really enjoyed it. It felt long, but in a good way. I wasn't bored at all.
That's what she said.
Bad to the bone.
That's okay.
Voyeuristic. I don't know, man.
You were talking in the car about how
Yeah,
it wasn't as voyeuristic as you wanted it.
Bunch of strangers meet at a hotel and they all almost die. Well, okay.
Wait,
Redo.
that's
bunch of
disingenuous.
strangers meet at a hotel and most of them die.
Like you said, strangers meet at a hotel and sexy Hemsworth comes along and makes things more complicated.
That boy's cut.
He has some good handles too.
Yeah,
I'd like to
I'm not gonna
grip those.
This is me grabbing Chris
Yeah,
Hemsworth.
Dude gets murdered in a hotel and we don't know why. Gets shot in the chest after burying some money in some floorboards. 10 years later, a bunch of strangers show up at a hotel. John Hamm being one of them, looking good, sounding country. She shows Darlene Sweets, she shows up. We don't really know much about her. She has some rugs. Jeff Bridges is a priest. John Hamm turns out he's a spy for America. And he's looking around the room and he finds out that two-way mirrors are in the room and you're like, what? This is cool.
There's also Dakota Johnson, who her character is Emily, and she has kidnapped her own sister. They were in a cult, and the cult was getting out of hand, let me tell you.
John Hamm is suspicious of this. He contacts headquarters in Washington, Langley.
DC.
Yep. And they're like, don't interfere, and he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. So he goes into the room. He's like, hey, are you kidnapping somebody? And she says no, and he doesn't believe her. So he kicks the door in, and he's like, hey, girl, are you okay? And she's like, I'm good. You good? And he's like, no, I'm being held up by a shotgun. She blasts him in the chest with shotgun, killing him.
Rosie's like, oh, yeah, I'm free now, and she calls the cult leader, Chris Hemsworth, Billy Lee, sexy Billy Lee,
God,
always shirtless.
He looks good. Yeah, Billy Lee comes because he loves boots and power. Boots is the name of your character.
Hurry.
So Chris Hemsworth forces everybody to gamble with their lives in some...
And
it's
then,
like Russian roulette, but instead of Russian roulette, it's Californian roulette. Nevada. He's a Californian doing Nevadan. Doing Nevadan roulette. He's the bellboy, aka the concierge,
Miles.
aka the janitor, aka
barman,
bartender, blah blah blah. Miles Miller. He kills people. He kills more people. He's killed 123 people prior to this Bad Time at the El Royale, and he kills like 4 more.
And Jeff Bridges and Sweets get out of Dodge, Nevada. And
Is that where that is?
They burn the film of JFK f***ing somebody. And then Jeff Bridges goes to see Sweets sing in Reno like she asked him to.
When he braces himself because you're about to get Hemsworth.
You like...
I felt like I got my money's worth plus more because this film felt like it went on for 3 hours, but in the best way possible, which was refreshing. Felt like a Coen Brothers film to me. It felt like what did I say? A Wes Anderson film to me.
I like this movie, not as much as Preston, but I think that the cinematography in it is great, and I also think that the editing is really good.
You have to understand my dad's favorite movie. This is Big Black.
They did that with John Hamm when he took a drink of coffee, and then they cut to him immediately like down with the coffee and having him like swallow.
It seems like that scene for some reason was played with issues.
Framing of the cuts and like what they cut to was generally pretty good. Like
on the other hand, I think the match cuts were done very well.
I'm gonna stick by it though. I think the editing for the most part was pretty good. And I like the tightness of the narrative. I'm not sure if I liked as much like how it was told, but I do like it's airtight. Like you can't really poke plot holes in this movie. Like everything that happens in it makes sense. And I really love the performances for the most part. Like Jeff Bridges especially. Like he's so good. But yeah, I think for the most part, like I think Preston said it best. I think this is a fun movie. Like it's certainly like there's hardly any dull moments, and I think that the dullest moment, and this is for me, it wasn't even that dull because the dialogue is so good, is the like the second like scene in the movie where they're all meeting each other for the first time, and John Hamm I think really carries that scene. Like, dude,
he's got that 5 o'clock shadow with the full mustache.
The way that the narrative is constructed is undeniably like something like Pulp Fiction. My problem with it is that the timeline isn't long enough to make it interesting every time you jump out of order. The fact that we see John Hamm die 3 times for me is problematic because like we get it. He's so much a part of the first act of the movie, and then he dies, and we don't get any more of him because the night is so short. You see sort of the same events happen a lot from different perspectives, and it's told in a way that isn't as like masterful as I want it to be. Like it's not bad in any stretch of the imagination. It felt a little bit repetitive to me because I think each of the characters are super interesting, but their backstories sort of just get like jumped on you in like the quickest possible sense, and then you're supposed to feel like you know them. Whereas like I didn't feel like I knew Miles. In Pulp Fiction, you get like 3 days. The only character that I felt like I really like connected with and cared about was Jeff Bridges' character because his like actual physical illness is so like powerful. Okay, I would say this film is almost too economical. Like that's my main problem. Like it doesn't really waste that much time describing the characters to you, but I sort of wish that it would.
This guy had enough pecs and abs for a whole bodybuilding team. I think you're right that it's undeniably similar to Pulp Fiction, at least narratively. But I think where Pulp Fiction has a benefit is that it, like you said, it takes place within a few days. And it doesn't have the responsibility to kind of explain what happened 10 years ago like this film does. And while it has to explain things in 10 years, it has to do that within 2.5 hours. So they have to touch a lot of different bases to get the same amount of storytelling in, I guess. I mean, that might be a bad thing, but for me it was a good thing because I felt like the pacing was really good. There was never a dull moment. And even with some of these characters, I would definitely like to learn more about them. But I feel like I did get a lot of their like motivations. Where's this?
That can't be real. My favorite scene in the entire movie is when John Hamm's character he finds the sort of like peep show-esque like hallway with all the double mirrors, and he's walking through, and he's like first seeing like all of these people sort of doing things on their own within the room before anybody really knows what's going on, because you get to see John Hamm watching people, which when you watch movies, that's what it's like. You're participating in voyeurism because you're watching somebody who doesn't know that you're watching. Like that's the conceit of like movies. You're breaking the fourth wall and you're looking through it. And when we get to see John Hamm like looking at like Sweets, for instance, like singing, it adds this layer of creepiness to it because you're watching him watching somebody and it feels weird. Like it's not just us watching her sing, it's somebody watching her sing and us watching them watching her. And I thought this movie was going to draw a lot more on that, but it didn't. But it wasn't a bad thing. Like I think that, like you said earlier, off camera, it uses these double mirrors more for like a narrative effect than like a thematic one, even though it is thematic for listening.
Let's get into
That's Thor's hammer right
Billy
there.
Lee.
Oh my god!
That is
Stormbreaker, dude. 8 Chris Hemsworth's mustaches, looking good, looking good, sporting it.
He was.
And so 8 of his mustaches out of 10. It's pretty good. It's pretty. The worst thing about it for me was probably the music. And
I thought the music was already so good. The trailer music was amazing.
Yeah, the trailer music was good, and it was just very like typical like.
It teased you a little bit. I thought it was gonna get there at some points, but then it didn't. So I'm gonna give this 8.5 Chris Hemsworth pecs and abs out of 10. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. Don't come back.
Like and subscribe. If you don't, I'm gonna be upset.
We're gonna come to your house or apartment,
No.
and we're gonna say mean
We're gonna
things to
shoot.
you.
We're gonna shoot a whole drunk review in your apartment.
Yeah, we're gonna
On your lawn.
We're
On
gonna.
your lawn.
Okay. If you want to see more of me, click here. Here.
If you want to see more of me, click. Yeah, but click here.
Okay. Well,
If you want to see. Okay.